This meeting is being recorded.
All right, and I'll kick it off to
Good
Jakenna.
Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate the overview. Good morning, everyone. This is the first of two forums on the ALTCS HCBS needs tool and exception process policies. We'll be doing a deep dive review today of the policies that we posted for public comment earlier this week. My name's Jakenna Lebsock. I serve as a Deputy Assistant Director here at Access over our ALTCS program post-eligibility. Just a quick overview for today in terms of our agenda. I'm going to give you some context about how we got here. We're going to talk about the policy updates in more detail. Then we'll cover next steps, our timeline, and how you can engage with us if you are interested in doing so. So to start, how did we get here? If you've been on other forums with us in the last week or so, some of this information may look familiar. We are going to cover it again just to reiterate what happened for us to be in this moment. From a high-level perspective, we created draft policies and placed them out for public comment in May of 2025. From there, we finalized those policies in early September and implemented the policies on October 1st. For some of the policies, there were concerns about the changes from the draft versions to the final versions, mostly related to the removal of an exception process, some additional age limitations, and definitely some noted concerns around the habilitation service. So, Governor Hobbs did hear from families regarding the concerns, the potential impacts, and the risk to our home and community-based services, or HCBS delivery system. She made a decision to pause implementation of the 10-1 policies, specifically the HNT for children under the age of 18, and she made that decision on October 16th. She had us pause that HNT to create an exception process, or what we call an extraordinary care review for members under the age of 18, and also gave us the opportunity to take another look at the HNT, which is, again, that assessment tool, to determine if we needed to make any updates. So what's happening? We were directed to pursue an emergency rule to support the HNT pause, again, specific to children under the age of 18. This allowed us to revise that tool, as well as formalize an exception process that can be used when there's concerns. And we're going to talk more about both of those pieces in a lot more detail in just a few minutes. So before we get into the policies, we want to talk about what the member experience should look like at this moment. So the new version, what we call the 10-1 version, that October 1st version of the HNT for children, is paused. So members under the age of 18 should be receiving the same services and service hours as they were prior to October 1st, unless the healthcare decision maker, such as a parent or guardian, has requested a change. Members who experience a change in condition, some may improve, some may have a decline, and who need to be reassessed for any reason, are able to be reassessed. That's done with the tools and processes that were in place prior to October 1st. For any new members that have joined our ALTCS program, they can be assessed for services. And again, that would be done with the tools and processes that were in effect prior to October 1st. And then throughout this pause, so through at least December, quarterly visits with your case manager or support coordinator are still occurring. You would not see a new tool, you would not see this draft that we're going to talk about, but those visits are still important to check in and make sure that the services and the specific member needs that your child has are being addressed. Also want to note that for adults, in terms of members that are age 18 and older, for how our assessment process works, the 10-1 tool that we implemented is still in effect. It's a standard process. The person-centered service planning process reviews and the assessment processes all continue as normal. There's not been any major impact to adults since October 1st. And so when we talk about these pauses, it really is specific to how children are assessed for services. So what policies have been updated or created because of this process? We have 4 main policy documents that are posted for public comment. Again, we're going to talk about these in detail in just a minute, but to level set, we have an exhibit 1620-17A that's called the HCBS Needs Tool. There's both a child's tab and an adult tab, so depending on the member's age would determine which tool is used to evaluate them for services. That document has been revised. We also have a HNT guidance document for the child tool, which we have revised. And then there is an adult tool for that HNT that's also been revised. In addition, we have a new policy in our Access Contractor Operations Manual that is called ALTCS Extraordinary Care Review Process for minor members. This is brand new, so we've not had a policy like this before. And that also has an attachment that's going to give the agency some data as we go forward. All of these policies and attachments can be commented on. So anything that's listed here, as well as any other policies that may not be related to ALTCS but happen to be posted on our website currently, all open for public comment if you would like to take the opportunity to give us feedback. So where are we with the public comment process? The draft policies posted on our website on Monday, which was November 10th. You can find them at the location shown on the screen. I believe that'll also be dropped into chat for ease of reference. We will be posting this slide deck as well as a recording to our website soon after this presentation, and you can access this information at any time, including hyperlinks that are shown in the presentation today. In order to meet the requirements of an emergency rule, the emergency rule, as well as state laws and policies, we had to open these policies for an expedited public comment process. And that means that they are open for 14 days to be reviewed and provide feedback. So we posted again on Monday the 10th. The policies that we're going to talk about today will be available on our website for comment until 5 p.m. on Monday, November 24th. So we're going to jump into the policy review. First, I want to do some high-level level setting, though, because I think it's really important to know that what you hear here absolutely can serve as a frame of reference, but there's still a lot of value to go out and read those draft policies in detail and to take time to provide feedback. And just some tips that we would share as you go through that process. Make sure that what you're hearing me say is what you're seeing reflected as you read the policies. Does it read the same way from what you hear? Does it make sense? Does the interpretation based on what's written translate into how it's being described? Also think about, are there any gaps Are there any concerns that we should be aware of? If you have positive thoughts on anything, we welcome those comments as well. But really, we want to make sure that what we put out is clear and understandable and doing what our intention is to support this process and also give very clear information of how it will all work. As you go into those policies, you may see text in different colors throughout the policies, especially in the ones that have been revised. So you're going to see text that has existed prior to the new policy draft, but we've made edits to those. Again, there may be a couple of different colors. The colors don't have a meaning. I wish I knew more to tell you why you see different colors, but it's a mystery of Microsoft that's apparently just where we find ourselves. However, any of the colors do indicate that a change has occurred from the 10.1 version to the new draft version of that policy document. In some instances, and usually it's blue text, but not always, that blue text may indicate that it's a hyperlink, which will take you to another resource to reference. When you see underlined text, that generally implies that the language is new. And this is specific in a Word document. Excel is much harder to track changes, so you're really just going to see red text or red line or strike through language. But in the Word documents, any underlined text typically means that's new language. The struck through language indicates what we plan to remove. So here's some examples of what you may see. On the left side of the screen, that's one of our Excel documents. That's the HNT itself. So where you see that red text that has lines through it, that means that we plan to delete that text. And when we finalize the version, you won't see it. Below, where you see that category for specialty eating and feeding in red, that means it's all new text that we've added. And when we finalize the document, all of that will be there as part of the assessment process. In looking at the right side of the screen, again, you're going to see some purple text or blue text, as well as some green text. And so at the top, where you see that strike through, that means we've removed the language that won't be there when we finalize the draft policy. Where you see the new text that's, again, underlined in the different colors, that is what we've added and what we intend to have in the policy as we go forward. So the first policy we want to talk about is that HCBS Needs tool, or HNT, which is the Child's tab. So I wanted to give you a screenshot so that you can see how to tell the two different tabs if you're not familiar with Excel. So where that arrow is pointing at the bottom of the Excel document, it shows you Child HNT, and then next to it is the Adult HNT. When you click on the Child HNT, that will show you the child assessment tool that will be used by your case manager or support coordinator. On the Child HNT, this is an exhibit for the specific assessment tool that we use to assess a member's direct care or rehabilitation service needs. It's used for members under the age of 18. And as a reminder, when it comes to the children's services, the services must be extraordinary in nature. And when we say that, it means that any hours that are assessed or any hours that are going to be provided and paid for cannot be a task or a support that all parents are required to do for their minor child. So it has to be above and beyond what a standard parenting requirement is when any parent has a child of a certain age. And so I think that's really important to keep in mind that there are some things that every single person as a parent is generally expected to do. The services that are assessed need to be above and beyond those standard expectations. So first, I want to talk about some of the age limitation adjustments. So again, if you're familiar with the version that posted on 10.1, there were quite a few age limitations in that document, and we did make some adjustments to that based on review of a clinician group that we pulled together to give us feedback. And for reference, we included community-based developmental pediatricians that's likely serving many of our members. We have board-certified behavioral analysts at the table. We had an occupational therapist, a speech and language pathologist, and then our medical directors from Access also participated. The age limitation adjustments that you will see in the draft policies for incontinence-based laundry, we reduced that age limit to do not assess under the age of 4, meaning that members that are 3 or younger would not be immediately eligible for incontinence-based laundry support. Previously, that age limit was set at age 7, so we brought that down fairly significantly. For eating and feeding, we changed that to do not assess under the age of 5. That was previously listed as do not assess under the age of 8. For bathing, very similar. We reduced that to do not assess under age 5. That was also previously listed as do not assess under age 8. And then for toileting, we changed that to do not assess for ages under 4. That was previously listed as under age 6. And I will note that there's been questions throughout this process about the clinical documentation that went into this decision making. Our clinicians are working on that clinical summary document that we will make available for reference. They're still pulling different pieces and working through some of the documents that might be behind firewalls, and we're trying to figure out how to make that information available, but that will be something that we're committed to doing as we go forward, as we anticipate there may be questions about that. For new service categories, so these were not previously in the assessment tool, and we've added a few. The first is specialty meal prep and cleanup. This task does not have an age limitation. We added this to highlight where there's needs resulting from a child's inability to eat the same meal as the family. And it could be for a number of reasons. For instances such as child may have a specialty diet with different considerations. They may have food allergies and so cannot have the same foods or the same spices or whatever the case may be. May need to consider food consistency. So food may need to run through a blender or be pureed in order for a child to be able to eat it. This allows for medically tailored meals. So if there's a prescription or a certain requirement, that would also be considered here. And then there's also a texture-based component for consideration, such as thickening or thinning foods to avoid things like choking or things like that. Additionally, each meal of the day is listed. So this assessment would be for breakfast, lunch, and dinner if your family chooses to have 3 meals a day. We've also added an alternate meal schedule and snacks to ensure that full support. So if part of the diet requires 5 small meals a day or snacks in between major meals, that's all there to be accounted for. Another new service category is specialty eating and feeding. Again, this task does not have any kind of age limit placed upon it. So if there is a need there, it should be assessed. We've added G-tube feeding and or hydration support. And then also the supervision component around chewing and choking, and ongoing monitoring that could either be tied to a medical condition, it could be tied to a eating behavior. So we've tried to make that broad enough to encompass different reasons why that meal supervision may need to occur. For service, let's see, for service category adjustments. So these were previously on our assessment tool, but we made some modifications. So for the standard meal prep and cleanup task, we combined the preparation and modification considerations into a single thing. We heard from the community-based clinicians that really they go hand in hand. It doesn't make sense to separate those out. So for ease of the assessment process, we combine those two pieces. You'll see some text that was deleted from this category because it was moved to the specialty meal prep and cleanup category. And then we also changed the base time for all of the meals to be a standard 1 to 30 minutes. And when I say base time, it is a guideline. It is a starting point for a conversation. If a support coordinator is having a conversation and the family shares that for lunch, it's a big deal in the home and it goes closer to 45 minutes, that would be accounted for XYZ reasons why that's the case. So there's flexibility with those time guidelines, but we wanted the initial frame of reference to be the same, as we did not want to imply any type of priority from one meal over the other, especially in terms of cultural considerations. In terms of eating and feeding, again, we changed that age range from do not assess under age 8 to under age 5. We removed some of the considerations and language in that one was removed because it was placed under the specialty eating and feeding. And then similar to meal prep and cleanup, we allowed for consistent time regardless of the meal. Again, we did not want to assume one meal was a priority over another based on specific culture and experience. So all of the times have the same ability to be reviewed. For bathing, we again made an age change from do not assess under age 8 to do not assess under age 5. We removed minimum and moderate considerations. We heard that that was confusing to some degree, and so we replaced that with a combined partial assistance. So, and there's still an option for a sponge bath if that's needed in lieu of a full in-bath type of assistance. And then we have partial assistance and full assistance for bathing. And then we adjusted the base time for the partial assistance to 1 to 20 minutes. For specialty toileting, we added an independent category as we heard that there may be instances where a child has a specific specialty toileting consideration, such as a catheter or an ostomy, but they may also have a skill set that allows them to self-manage that. And so that can be notated. If the child has that skill, it's amazing. And so we've added that in as an option to more accurately reflect the child's status. We also added some new subtasks here that can be considered as a specialty toileting need. So that includes things like smearing behaviors. In that instance, it may require an environmental cleanup. It may require cleanup of the child themselves. And so we added that in here, although a part of that kind of gets into some laundry considerations, some bathing considerations, but we really thought it made the most sense to highlight here for this very specific purpose. We also added things like chronic constipation and holding behaviors. And then if a child is on a formal toileting schedule, which typically prescribed by a clinician or a therapist, to help build that habit and promote healthy toileting behaviors. For attendant care supervision, we don't show any changes in that draft policy. However, I want to note that we do intend to add a specialty supervision category, and we would really welcome public comment on that in particular. We had conversations on it. It wasn't at a place where we felt we could put something in draft form that would be meaningful and promote a response, but we want you to know that is our intention. And so we really need to hear your thoughts. And with that, it would be what conditions or diagnoses or specific behaviors should be documented in a specialty supervision type of task. What would be appropriate guidelines for evaluating that need? So if you have thoughts, we would welcome that feedback. It would be super helpful to us as we work towards finalizing these policies when the time comes. For habilitation, I want to start the habilitation conversation by giving you broader insight to our long-term intentions. We have heard loud and clear that there are concerns with the habilitation policy as currently written, with the habilitation limitations. And we have also heard that in order to get habilitation to a point where it can maximize the effectiveness to support children or whomever needs the service, we really need to do some work to kind of rethink that and define a better approach overall. With that said, that process is going to take time. We do not want to rush that. We want to do right by the habilitation service in the intended benefit of promoting that independence. And so we are committed to forming a work group that is going to address this over the next several months. It is, again, it's not going to be a super fast process. We don't want this to be rushed. We really want to be thoughtful as we go through that. With that said, we still need to have that short-term structure in place to address habilitation. And so you still see habilitation in the policies, you still see information or limitations on that, which we'll talk about. But please know that we intend to do a lot more work. We have heard loud and clear this is a major opportunity that Access needs to take advantage of and bring people to the table to have broader conversations. So on the habilitation piece, we removed the daily limits. There was a lot of confusion around that piece. Those are out. And then we changed the weekly limits. So as the clinicians talked about this, they felt pretty strongly like there's not necessarily a major benefit, non-benefit from dependent upon children's ages, although attention span remains a major concern there. And so it was recommended to Access that we create a standard approach for children ages 3 and older. We put that in at a 10-hour weekly limit. That was based on service utilization data in average timeframes from state fiscal year 2019 through 2025. That data did show that between the age ranges, there wasn't a major difference between how many hours a 3-year-old gets versus how many hours a 16-year-old gets. And so we tried to standardize that and simplify that. And the 10 hours also on par for what we saw with the data utilization. And the thought was that as long as that extraordinary care review or exception process is in place, if there are instances where children need more than 10 hours in a week, that extraordinary care review process is there to determine what may be appropriate to support that that child's unique needs and circumstances. Other updates on the child HNT, we added a space for clear documentation of overnight care. So if services are needed between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., there's a slot to capture that, so it's very clearly documented. We added information regarding the extraordinary care review process. As we go forward, you're probably going to hear me refer to the extraordinary care review as the ECR. And basically on the HNT, it's just one more place to document if a family expresses interest in the ECR process. It includes dates that the information is shared. It also has like a follow-up tracking for what happens after the extraordinary care process. So the date of an ECR decision, if there was an ECR process, the outcome of that, that review, the date that the information was shared with the healthcare decision maker, and everything is just there for very clear, concise documentation of what occurred. It also summarizes any changes that may happen to the HNT because of that extraordinary care review process. And for clarification, health plans will be required to provide clear information on the ECR process in several ways. So it's not just if you indicate during the assessment process that you want to know more. They also are going to have to provide information on their website, in their member handbook. So regardless of the conversation, you will still have ways to get information about the extraordinary care review process and understand it at any point in time that you want to know more about that. So transitioning to the adult tab, there's very few changes here, but we wanted to make sure we had this conversation. So again, you'll see on the screenshot, it's the second tab of that Excel document, and that's where you'll find that adult assessment tool. It's called Adult HNT 18+. And on there, very similar to the child tool, most revisions were made to keep things in alignment and promote consistency. Some of the things that we did, we had some daily limit language that was on a couple of the tasks to, again, help guide. They were not intended to be hard limits, but our understanding is that in certain instances, they were taken as hard limits. And so we removed that language so that the full assessment of need is occurring and can be documented. Some of the other revisions for meal prep and cleanup, similar to what we talked about on the child's tool, we combined preparation and modification, and we allowed for that base time to be consistent for all meals and didn't make the assumption that breakfast is always the smallest or the fastest meal of the day, or dinner is the longest meal of the day. We added G-tube feeding and hydration under the eating and feeding task, again, to promote that consistency and alignment. For toileting, we added the components that we talked about under the child specialty toileting, so smearing and holding behaviors, things like that. You'll also see in the adult tool. And then for habilitation, similar to what we did on the child's tool, we removed the daily limit that was documented on the adult tool. The next policy document we want to talk about is the child HNT guidelines. So the child guidelines outlines how a case manager or support coordinator should utilize the HNT and have those conversations with families or the members to understand the needs. And so for the child guidelines, again, it aligns with the tool. It's for members under the age of 18. Where you see the highlighted text on the screen, that's what you're going to look for to make sure you're looking at the child version. If that's what you want to provide comment on, it'll say that at the top of that document. So what did we do in the guidelines document? We clarified the need to document any parent or healthcare decision maker concerns, especially for tasks with age limitations. So there's a snippet here just to highlight what that language looks like. So again, it looks kind of purple on my screen. It may present as blue if you were to open the document, but the language is, if a member is not of the age to be assessed for a task, be sure to document those concerns that a family member may raise during the assessment process. It's just another piece that can be considered during that extraordinary care review. And so we've added language like that in several spots in this guidelines document. Also in the guidelines, again, you should expect to see what you see in the tool to be described in the guidelines. So if you don't, or if it doesn't make sense, please flag that. So similar to what was on the tool, in the guidelines, we talk about documentation requirements for those overnight hours and those care needs and how to do that. We adjusted all of the guidance language. So if we made an update in the HNT, we made an update in the guidance document to make sure there's alignment. And then if we added a new task on the HNT, we added new language in the document for review. So I'm not going to do a deep dive review of the language, but definitely you should see these are complementary documents. So if you see it on the assessment tool, you should see it covered in the guidance document. For the adult HNT guidance, very similar to what we just talked about with the child document. This is specific, again, to members aged 18 and older. At the top of the document, you will see it very clearly highlights that it's the adult tool. So just keep that in mind as you go to make those comments. We adjusted the guidance language for tasks that were revised. There's not a lot on the adult side at all. And then we added new guidance language for subtasks. So where we added like G-tube feeding or hydration support, you should now see that language correlated in the guidance document. Okay. Extraordinary care review, or what we call the exception process. I think this is probably one of the most important components of all of this work. We've heard loud and clear this is absolutely a necessity, and so would definitely encourage you to take time to read through this in depth and provide feedback. I know it's a long document. I think it's like a 9 or 10 page policy, but we really wanted to be as clear and intentional as possible about the expectations of what this review process should look like. And so it was established to allow for ALTCS children under the age of 18 to have a pathway for reconsideration when the parent disagrees with the assessed service hours for direct care rehabilitation due to the age-based limitations that are on the HNT. The goal of services is to ensure medical necessity, extraordinary care, that supports child's health, safety, and ability to remain in their home. So that's going to be the lens that services are looked through. We're going to talk about that more in detail, but also included a screenshot here so that you know what this document should look like when you go to open it up. Very clearly should show that you're in 450. And then what I would say is that the language or the lettering is all black because it's a new policy. So there's a couple of things highlighted on here that's like a hyperlink to other references, but all of this language appears in the black text because the entire thing is brand new, and we didn't think that having an entire document of red text would be particularly fun to read through. Hopefully it's a little bit easier on the eyes, but just know this is a brand new policy, never before seen, so we didn't have a prior version to come back to and edit. So what is the extraordinary care review or ECR process? And again, when I say extraordinary care review, this really is an exception to an exception request to the HNT assessment where it's felt that additional hours are needed. So again, it's for our child population. It's when the parent or healthcare decision maker disagrees with the assessed service hours or lack thereof because of the age limits that are outlined on that that HNT, that assessment tool. And so it applies, the ECR applies to direct care services, which are the attendant care services or personal care services, such as bathing, eating, feeding, those type of things, as well as habilitation services. And the extraordinary care review process is intended to promote independent review of members' unique needs, conditions, and circumstances. And after that review, that independent review, if appropriate, as determined by a clinician, it would support additional services or service hours if that additional need is determined to be to exist and to be necessary. So how can you request an extraordinary care review? As the policy is currently drafted, this can be requested when a parent or healthcare decision maker disagrees with the assessed hours on that HNT because the services or service hours are limited due to age limits, and the parent believes that the child's unique needs are not adequately reflected on or accounted for in that assessment process due to the age limitations. So again, if it is believed that additional time is needed because of unique needs and conditions or behaviors, that would be the driver because the HNT has those age limits in place. We intend to limit the extraordinary care review process to one time a year. However, we understand that if a member has a change in condition, that absolutely may warrant another review. If there's a service or a task that has not previously been evaluated under extraordinary care review, that would also be appropriate to have that review occur, even if other services had been evaluated 6 months ago or whatever the case may be. So in big picture, this process, like long-term, would be occurring during your annual person-centered service planning process. And then if there's concerns with how services are assessed, it would be requested. It's gonna feel a little bit differently when we finalize these policies because we're doing those assessments in the first 90 days. But generally speaking, the cadence that we think would be appropriate after that would be annually. So how can this be requested? We intend to allow requests to be made either verbally or in writing. Each health plan will be responsible for establishing the processes of how to make the request. They will be required to make all of that information available to you. But prior to doing any of that, they have to let us know at Access how they intend to make this process available. We will review that and approve it. Again, looking to make sure that it's accessible, it's easily understandable, that there's different ways that information can be shared so that depending on what the needs are of the person making the request, they can be supported in doing so. And there's not a false barrier there that may prevent them from being able to make the request. Parents or healthcare decision makers can choose to submit additional documentation. It's not required. You don't have to do that work or go through that process if you don't want to. But you may choose to provide additional documentation if you think it's helpful. So some examples of this would be therapy notes, especially if you have therapies being provided by another insurance company or things like that our health plans may not be able to see. That might be helpful. Behavioral treatment plans, Again, not saying our health plans can't see that, but if you're in a setting or a child has some kind of plan in place that our health plans don't immediately have line of sight into, that might be helpful for awareness. Individual education programs or IEPs that are established in the school setting may be of benefit in some instances. So this is not a comprehensive list, but wanted to provide some examples of what may be submitted. What's going to happen during this process? The review will be conducted by a qualified clinician. We have a lot more detail in the policy on this, but generally the clinician should have relevant professional experience. So maybe a developmental pediatrician, maybe an adolescent psychiatrist, whatever the case may be, we want to make sure that it's going to be someone that understands the diagnoses and the behaviors as they go about doing this review. Clinicians are going to look at a lot of different information, including but not limited to the HNT, so that assessment, any service utilization data. So anything that the health plan is paying for, they would be looking to see what else the child may be receiving, if there's been recent hospitalizations or out-of-home placements. And then our intention is that we will have a national tool, it's like a disability index, that can also be used where the clinician can have a conversation with the parent to better understand the child's behaviors and then use that also to guide the scope of need. And I know that sounds really high level because it is high level. We're still working through details around the tools and what that process may look like. So we fully noted that we need to provide more information on this publicly, but right now we're still going through that process to figure out exactly what that national tool may be most appropriate. There's been 3 or 4 that's been recommended from our community-based clinicians that we're evaluating. Clinicians would also consider, this is not an all-inclusive list, but child's diagnosis and specific needs, the time and effort it takes to achieve daily tasks that are above and beyond the standard expectations of parents of minor children, any other services that the child actively receives, and then the child's risk of institutionalization or out-of-home placement. What's going to happen during the extraordinary care review process? If a member has an assessment and the assessment shows a reduction in service hours because of the age limits, the parent and healthcare decision maker may request an extraordinary care review. We've talked about that. If that occurs, services will not be reduced during the extraordinary care review process. And on the flip side, if new services or service hours are increased, those will be implemented while the extraordinary care review process is going on. So things that will aid the child and support the child will happen in real time. Things that potentially put a risk in place. So if the assessment shows that a service is going to be reduced and there's concern, that would be evaluated by that clinician before that change is made. What are the possible outcomes from an extraordinary care review? Clinicians may decide on any of the following. They review all the documentation and there's no change. The assessed hours stay the same. In some instances, there may be a reduction in services. In some instances, they may be maintained. But what was described in the HNT is what's being upheld. There's some instances potentially where there'll be an increase in service hours or approval of additional tasks. So this would add additional supports or hours to the member's care plan. And then they would work with the case manager or support coordinator for those services to be authorized. There could be an instance where additional services might be recommended for the family to consider. Examples of this may be therapies or to consider a licensed health aide type of, or home health type of support instead of the other services that are covered on the HNT. In this instance, first and foremost, network adequacy has to be considered. If a service is going to be recommended, it has to be available. It can't be a theoretical component that may or may not happen. And ultimately, it has to make sense for the member and for the family. So this would just be a recommendation. This is not a requirement, but maybe worth considering. It would be done in a conversation between the case manager and the family to see if this is an additional service is of interest to pursue. All of these documentations all of these decisions will be documented. The decisions will be shared with the parent or healthcare decision maker in writing, along with the details of the relevant next steps, what's occurring, when it occurs. In instances where there's no change, it could include information on a notice of adverse benefit determination, especially if that HNT showed a decrease in hours. So all of that would be provided for awareness. This is a visual, and please don't judge me on my inability to make pretty flowcharts. We're going to have our graphic designer work on this as we get the policy more finalized, but thought it might be helpful for today just to kind of see like step 1, step 2, there's some back and forth, the documentation's not complete, there's a review of the decision. So again, for people that are more visually stimulated, like myself, I threw it in here, but we will make this, we'll continue to enhance this and build upon this so that it's easy to digest as we go forward. Other things I'd highlight about our extraordinary care review, we are going to be monitoring this process very closely and the outcomes. We've heard loud and clear that needs to be a focus, and we have every intention of doing so. And as part of that, I had a great conversation with a stakeholder group that recommended that we form an oversight committee to have community-based individuals at the table that works with us in this oversight in monitoring the extraordinary care review. So we absolutely intend to move forward with that. It would be made up of representatives from outside of Access. The group would potentially advise on actions that we need to take. They would look at the data, look at the outcomes, what we need to consider going forward. We need to make policy adjustments. We don't have a lot of details on this yet. We absolutely will share this publicly as we get a more formal plan in place. But if you have thoughts on this committee, if you have an idea of how it should be structured, who should be included, what we should be looking at, please share that with us. We really want to hear your feedback on this. If you think it's a good idea, if you're wondering what the heck we're doing and why, would really welcome thoughts. It does not have to be in the formal public comment process. You can send it to us via our inbox and stuff like that. I'll show you the address in just a little bit, but really, we're pretty excited about this. So want to make sure that it's meaningful. And if you have ideas, send them our way. The last document we're going to talk about is Ecom 450. It's the attachment. So I'm not going to do a whole lot of time on this, but it's a reporting template that our health plans are going to be required to submit to us regular intervals. It'll probably be more frequently in the beginning. And then once we get to that level of comfort with the extraordinary care review process, it may become less frequent. There's 2 tabs on that. There's a data tab and a narrative and analysis tab. So definitely look at both if you're planning to review and provide comment. This will be used to support monitoring and oversight for this process. And we do intend to publish extraordinary care data each quarter, again, to promote transparency and public insight to what's occurring with this process that we're putting in place. So just a quick screenshot. This is what the data tab looks like. It's not all inclusive on the screen, but it shows you what you would expect to see on that first tab. And then the second tab is the narrative piece that will take you, that our health plans would be filling out, where they would be doing some in-depth analysis and talking about the trends that they're seeing, any concerns, and any process improvements, if any are warranted. So, whew, that's a lot. Lots of nuances with that policy. Again, I would just reiterate, we did not cover every single change, so definitely take time to go in there and review in detail yourself. In terms of next steps, so again, these policies are going to be open for public comment until 5 p.m. on Monday, November 24th. We at ACCESS will continue to engage with the community outside of this forum process, outside of this work. Still want to hear from you all. If you were in the forums from last week, to do that overview. If you have ideas on how we can be more supportive, please let us know. We would welcome that feedback as well. In terms of the public comments received, we will review every single public comment. Every comment is a standalone, so it does not place precedence. Like if we get 100 comments on one thing and one comment on the other, like we are still equally weighting all of that to review to make sure that every single comment is evaluated. And if we need to make an adjustment, when we look at those, we'll determine if an update is needed, or we'll determine if a non-policy related action or response is needed. So it could be education, it could be other things that don't necessarily change the policy, but help make the policy more digestible or help improve a process outside of the actual policy work. So that could also occur as of the public comment response. All of the public comments are being tracked, including the action that we take in result of the public comment. We have subject matter experts reviewing all of the feedback. So our ALTCS program and policy subject matter experts are reviewing, as well as our clinicians. If there are really nuanced suggestions or requests, we may seek advice from external experts. So again, we may bring our community-based clinicians that have been so gracious with their time back to the table to advise us further based on what the public comment provides insight on. If we do that, that will also be tracked so that we know exactly what occurred. I would say not all comments can be implemented. We are on day 3, 4. We already have over 100 public comments that we've received. In some instances, the conflicts conflict with each other. So one group or person is saying one thing, another person is commenting on the exact same thing but saying something else. So please note that there is not a way to make 100% of the commenters happy or to incorporate 100% of the responses because of that conflict. Like we have to make decisions, we have to be able to move those policies forward. So what we can commit to is, again, that review and being really thoughtful about the decisions that we make and ensuring that they're clinically and programmatically appropriate. And then we are going to host public forums before the policies are finalized. So look for those in early December, just so that we can have a conversation about what our intentions are, what we heard, what the comments showed, how we responded to those. We want full transparency on that process as we go forward. So those will be occurring, although we don't quite have those scheduled yet, but it's here, they're announced that it's happening. Feel free to hold us accountable and make sure you're seeing those invites come out so that you can have that information when the time comes. For implementation of the policy itself, so longer term, our health plans, and when I say health plans, I'm talking about DDD as well. They're going to need time to review the final policy. So once we are to pass, we've seen the public comments, we've responded to them. We've gone through, shared publicly with what our changes are, and then we finalize. Health plans then have to review, digest. They may have to update systems. They may have to change their printouts. They may have to change their internal processes. And then they need time to train their staff and establish, like, based on the new policies and requirements. So all of that has to occur before we implement the new policies. In addition, health plans are going to need to document their ECR process. And when I say the ECR process, I'm talking about the administrative things, like how they're going to display information, if they're going to use it on their website, in their member handbook, if they're going to use staff clinicians, or if they need to bring in external clinicians to support that ECR review. Like, the details behind how that process takes place is what they're going to be telling us. They're not going to be saying, we see your policy says ABC and we want to do XYZ. Like, that's not what that means. They're really going to be giving us their operational plan of how they're going to take the policy and make it a reality for their organization. And then from there, so they'll submit the plans to us. We will review to make sure that it's appropriate and in alignment with policy. And then once we get comfortable with the submission, they'll have approval to move forward, and that will occur. But there is some time there as well, from the time we finalize policies to the time that implementation becomes a reality. Once they're in a good place, they're ready to implement, they've done the training, they've done the work, then they'll start those new member assessments. We will give clear detail on when those new assessments will start. If you were in the previous public forums, we lean towards early January for when that will occur. But again, some of it's dependent upon how quickly we can review the comments and make updates. Once the assessments start, they'll occur regularly scheduled interviews throughout the next 90 days. That then, let's see, there will be an opportunity again. We will make sure that that's clear so you're not caught off guard. You go into a meeting with your case manager or support coordinator and they're like, oh, by the way, the new assessment is starting today. Here you go. Here's the thing. Like, we will make sure that there's proactive communication so that you know the tools are finalized and that those assessments are restarting and the pause is officially lifted. And then, as a reminder, if that extraordinary care review process is requested, services will not immediately be reduced as that process needs to play out. But if there are new services to be increased, or if there's an increase in service hours, that will help happen quickly in the same timelines that you're accustomed to seeing that occur. And once an extraordinary care review decision is made, there's going to be some runway. So from the day that the decision occurs, healthcare decision maker has to be made aware of that decision. There is a timeline for either services to be increased if it was approved, or for services to be decreased if there's no change to the HNT that was previously assessed. And so that's typically around a 10-day mark. So there will be a little bit of forewarning before any of those changes go into effect. So really quickly, all of the timelines we just talked about, you're going to see here. I'm not going to reread it, but again, the slide's available for quick reference if you want to come back to it once we have it posted to our website. And then how to engage. If you want more information about what you've heard today, it's all available on our website. We'll get, again, this posted as soon as possible, but it's under the members section of our website. So where you see that upward pointing arrow, that's where you look on our website to find this. There'll be a section for member resources. You'd click on that. the screen down below will come up, and where you see the kind of the angled arrow, that's what you want to click on. The ALTCS policy updates is where everything is housed right now. And so that's where you're going to go to get all of the latest and greatest, the policies, the recordings, whatever, or the slide deck, the recordings, anything like that. We've also included the public comment link here for your review. And if you want to get updates on future policies, we post all kinds of policies all the time. So may not be of interest, but if you did want to sign up, you can definitely do that. We're happy to have more people be aware as we push things out for review. We have another forum next Monday night, exactly like this forum, same content, same slide deck. So you're welcome to join us if you want, but don't feel that you have to join both. And you can register on our website for that. And then again, just summarizing, we're doing that public forum next week. We have other public forums planned throughout. We're going to give an update on the policies as soon as we're ready to do that. And then we're also going to have some public forums on rulemaking, which if you joined us last week, you heard a little bit of teaser about what that rulemaking process entails. We're going to do a deep dive into rulemaking for those that are interested in understanding what that means for the agency and how rulemaking can impact policy. If you want to reach out to us, the best email address is ppcg@azaccess.gov. That is monitored daily. So questions, concerns, if you have ideas on some of the questions that I posed today, that are a little bit broader in nature and maybe not specific to the policies themselves, we would love to hear from you. Again, talk to your support agencies, advocacy organizations, service providers, or your health plan if you're not comfortable talking directly to Access, but want to make sure that your feedback is incorporated. Please find someone that can be your voice and get that information to us without it being directly tied back to you. We in no way want to ever make anyone feel uncomfortable. And so if that's what you think makes you the most comfortable, please do what you need to do, but don't shy away from giving us feedback in whatever manner you feel comfortable with. And then please review the policies, provide any comments. Really want to hear your thoughts and opinions. And if there's additional opportunities to revise or update or clarify, it's going to be really important. So with that was a lot. And I know we're short on time, but we want to get to some questions that we may be able to answer immediately based on everything you've heard today. Dara, are you on?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Oh, I can. Yes.
Okay. So I know we only have a few minutes left, so I'm going to try to really do high-level summary of some of the ones that have come in. I do want to reiterate that everybody's comments today will be tracked as public comment for the policies. We will add them to our tracker. If you had complete sentences and had input or questions about specific things, we will be tracking that. So just know if we don't get to your specific question, we will track it as part of the public comment period. A lot of questions about habilitation as to why we chose 10, whether or not that's in effect now or won't be in effect until January, and how to provide comment on the habilitation changes.
Perfect. So everything that we talked about today, none of it is in effect currently. It is in draft form. It is open for you to review and provide feedback. Nothing that was covered should be your immediate experience with your case manager or support coordinator. You should be experiencing assessments and conversations just like you did prior to October 1st, and that all maintains. until these policies are finalized and implemented. So for habilitation, it's in a couple of places with the policies that are posted. You can provide comment on the HNT document itself. So that's 1620-17A. You can talk about habilitation there. You can also highlight habilitation off of the 1620-17B, that child's guidelines. Habilitation is also described in there. It's another good place where you can provide comment. So either one would be appropriate. We'll consider, like if you put a comment in the guidelines and we need to make an adjustment, the HNT obviously has to be updated. If you provide a comment on the HNT and we make a change, the guidelines have to be updated. So they are interrelated documents that are kind of codependent upon each other. So either place that you feel comfortable, it will be considered. If you want to give us broader feedback on habilitation outside of what's covered in policy, then that PPCG at azaccess.gov is the best email address to send comments to. That will be super helpful. Regarding the question about the hours, that 10 hours, that came from the community-based clinician feedback and how to structure some of this. And it was data informed by utilization over the past 6 state fiscal years. When I say state fiscal years, it's how the state looks at data. So it's from July through June. And so we looked at all of the data, the utilization, to see if there were variances between the different age ranges, things like that. And so that's how that 10-hour weekly limitation was established.
Okay. There are lots of really great points of feedback in the chat, and I'll just reiterate that we're going to take these and we're going to use them as public comment. But a couple of things I think will be helpful for people in their review. On the HNT, there's still lots of questions about where you have the time guidelines, whether or not those are actual guidelines, or if the task is appropriate to be assessed for the child, given the age of the child, if the time for the task can be assessed for over that guideline.
Absolutely. So the guidelines that you see in the HNT, when we're talking about, let's see, I think it's column C, don't hold me to it, but it shows like 1 to 30 minutes or 1 to 20 minutes. That is a starting point. That is a frame of reference to have a conversation. If it says 1 to 20 minutes for the task and the family's like, it actually takes 45 minutes because of all of these reasons, the 45 minutes should be documented. If it says 1 to 20 minutes and the family's like, actually for this, pretty self-sufficient, we only need about 10 minutes of support in a given day, also totally appropriate. It is a conversation. It is a place to have a starting point for reference, and then it is conversation from there to really get at those member-specific needs and nuances that need to be evaluated.
Okay, and moving on to the Extraordinary Review Committee, lots of questions around when you say health plans, what does that mean? So with DDD, there's DDD, and then they have subcontracted health plans. So can you clarify who actually is responsible for that?
Excellent question. So when we talk about health plans, in context of this entire conversation, I'm talking about the ALTCS health plans that deliver the long-term care services. So for members that are enrolled through the DD side, that is the Division of Developmental Disabilities. They are one of our access health plans. They are responsible for all of the home and community-based services. Their support coordinators do this assessment. They will be the plan that is implementing the extraordinary care review process. If you are a member or family whose child is engaged on our elderly and physically disabled side, or our EPD plan, we have 3 health plans that serve in that space. We have Banner long-term care, Mercy Care long-term care, and United Healthcare long-term care. So if your child has a physical disability and is enrolled on the EPD side, one of those three health plans, whomever your health plan is who would develop that extraordinary care review process. And again, the processes in general, regardless of health plan, are all going to be incredibly similar, but we do recognize that different business entities have different technology and things like that. So we have to allow for them to develop things that make sense for how they're structured. At the same time, they still have to meet all of the requirements that are outlined in policy to ensure that regardless of who your health plan is, you're still getting the same extraordinary care review process, regardless if you're a DD member and DD is conducting this, or if you're an EPD member and Mercy Care is conducting it, or whomever. So those are the plans that we're talking about when we talk about our health plans.
Couple more questions about that process. What happens to the members' hours and services while that exception or extraordinary review committee process is occurring?
So if you're an existing member and the HNT shows that there should be a reduction, those reductions cannot occur during the extraordinary care review process. Basically, the changes are put on hold until that independent clinician review can occur to determine if they agree with the HNT, if they see a need for additional services or service hours to be added to the HNT. So nothing should change from a member support standpoint until that occurs. If you are a new member or an existing member where you need services authorized, but you still want to have that extraordinary care review because you don't think it's fully appropriate or accurate, any new service authorizations or an increase in hours should move forward outside of that extraordinary care review process. So if the extraordinary care review process takes 20 days or whatever the case may be from all the documentation, submission, and review, new services should be implemented for members to support them immediately. So things that benefit the member should happen quickly. Things where it is perceived as an impact, a negative impact to the member, are slow rolled, should not be occurring while that extraordinary care review process is underway.
And excuse me, is there a appeal process of the extraordinary care review?
So if the HNT showed a change, like there was going to be a reduction, and then the extraordinary care review process upheld the HNT assessment, there's appeal rights for all of that. So there will be a notice of adverse benefit determination issued. There are appeal rights. All of that should be occurring. So yes, you should see standard notices and appeals as you would typically see with any service decision that's made for a member.
And so what if a family, the HNT assessment, the child has been assessed for the task the family believes they should be assessed for, but the amount of the assess that they're getting, the child is getting for the task, the amount of time or hours they do not feel is appropriate. Do they use the ECR process, or what process is used for that? So the child, they're not debating a task that has an age-based limitation on it. It's the amount of hours that the child has received as a result of the assessment that they're concerned about.
Yeah. As the policy is written right now, in instances where time has been assessed and there's a concern, but it's not tied to that age-based limitation, that immediately goes to that NOA and appeal process. So it's not a reason for extraordinary care. Extraordinary care is really tied to limitations from those age-based parameters. So anything that's not tied to that age-based limit is immediately moved to that notice of adverse benefit determination with appeal rights there.
Okay, and then a couple of just more questions, I think, and then we can probably wrap up because a lot of these are similar, which is good, helping us see similar questions. It's helpful. Who exactly is doing the review? So can you talk a little bit about the way the policy right now outlines the who, like the clinicians, would be helpful.
Yep. So that will be on each health plan to make that decision. So it is not the support coordinator. It is not the case manager. It is a clinician that is approved for this extraordinary care review process. And again, they have to have a background in things that are relevant. So it may be a developmental pediatrician. It may be someone like an adolescent psychiatrist. It may be a BCBA, a board certified behavioral analyst. So the health plans will be developing their extraordinary care review team based on the policy parameters, and they'll be identifying those clinicians. That information will be shared with us ahead of time at Access to approve that. But I can't say that it's going to be, you know, Dr. Lebsock for DDD, if that were the case. Like, I can't tell you the exact names of the clinicians because that's on the health plans to identify, but they will have to meet the parameters that are outlined in policy to make sure that they have appropriate knowledge and background to take on those clinical reviews and make those decisions.
Okay, and then one more question about that process, and if you could go back to the graph that you had, or the flow chart of the timelines would be great. So a lot of questions around what additional documentation can be considered, such as could a parent document more information about how long it takes them to do certain things, or does it have to be from another clinical practitioner like a doctor or a therapist? So lots of questions about that, along with a review of the timeline.
Yeah, so our intention and hope is that during the HNT process, you're having a conversation with your case manager or support coordinator, that feedback is already being captured. So if a parent is saying, you know, it really does take me like 2 hours to do this, or, hey, I'm really concerned that my kid can't be assessed for this service because I have to watch him 24/7 because he's a run risk. He will dart out into traffic, or he'll go out the front door. Like those type of things we're hoping are captured on the HNT proactively. And we've added guidelines that should be occurring. However, there is opportunity for that information to be submitted in addition to what's captured on the HNT. That's why we wanted to give parents the option to submit additional documentation. The way the policy is written, our intention was not to limit it to a clinician document. Like, we're not asking you to go out and have another doctor appointment to get this documentation. We're asking for details of what real life presents as. So what does the day-to-day look like? What is happening? Why are there these concerns? So it could be that you have other documentation available. There may be some instances where you really don't have a lot to provide besides that high-level feedback that's captured in the HNT. Both are appropriate. Like, we don't want to add an additional burden to the families, but also don't want to silence the family perspective as this decision is being evaluated. So we'd welcome feedback on that, but our intention is to allow both. In terms of the timeline, so from the completion of the assessment, once you have the full information on how to submit for an extraordinary care review, the way the policy is written is that there's 10 days to pull all of that together. We do have language that reasonable accommodations have to be made if a person needs support in getting that information to their health plan. As that comes in, the health plan is going to review, make sure the information, the baseline information is there that they can see. If not, they're going to have a follow-up with the family to make sure they get what they need. Once all of that information is gathered, it will be assigned to a clinician to go through that review process, and then a decision will be made with that feedback given to the family. So there's quite a bit of time in there from the day that the assessment occurs to getting the information, submitting that information, and then the health plan going through that review process.
Okay, I think I think we're probably at time, so we did put in the chat. Thank you again for all your questions and comments. A lot of repetition, which is good. That's certainly helpful for us to see where you feel like you need clarification, or where people generally are having, you know, a strong feeling about something one way or another. And we have the next session on Monday, which will be the same material that was presented tonight, or this morning, excuse me, will be presented that evening on Monday. And we will get the recording up here in the next few days along with the slide deck. So can I let you close out with anything you'd like to say?
Just thank you all so much for your time. I know this takes you away from other things and your already busy schedule. So appreciate you being here. Really appreciate the time and energy that goes into reviewing policies and providing comments. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We really do value your perspectives and thoughts. So again, just thank you all very much, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody.